Hello, good day, and welcome to another episode. It's good to have you yet again. How have you been? How has your mind been? How has your interaction with reality been so far or lately? Have you been wrestling with reality, trying to make certain changes? Or have you just merely been a spectator recently? Maybe you're just tired and you're just taking some breathing time and just observing and just going with the flow. I would actually like to hear. So if you have my number, you can text me. If you're on my Instagram, you can reach out and just let me know how you've been. Um, so the reason why I started all of this was because I wanted to know what the contents of the typical atheistic mind is. I wanted to know the reason why they thought the way they thought, to see the things that make up the mind. The way that I chose to attack this challenge of knowing this and properly understanding this is by taking a walk. So right from the beginning, we are trying to take a walk to the concept of truth. And that's the reason why we started where we started. And that's the reason why all of the episodes have been structured that way, because we're trying to get to somewhere. And while we're doing this, I've also been using the opportunity to think and properly wrestle out with the different ideas that are in a part of truth. Of course, it's not a wholesome thing, right? It's not every single thing that has to do with concept of truth that we will be able to tackle along the way. But so far, we started by looking at the beliefs of people, asking the question, why do we believe what we believe? Helping everybody to just take some time to scrutinize the way that they live and the reason why they live the way they live. And then we went on to communicating the fact that everybody has a philosophy. Everybody has ideologies that they live by, whether they like it or not. And then in the last episode, we took a look at the concept of objectivity. And what exactly is objectivity? Objectivity is the ability to perceive reality outside of bias. In that episode and in this concept, we were trying to look at a number of things that would be able to provide us with the answer, that would be able to give us a proper lens to objectivity. And of course, the first thing that came to mind was science. But then we saw that science is not exactly able to provide the answers that we need, because science is built on provisional truth, right? And in science there's a consistent process of falsification. There's a consistent process of testing the concepts. We saw that science is actually peer reviewed, that different people would test a particular thing, and they will test it and consistently, as they are able to find that the results are the same, then they have proof. And that finding goes on as the truth until somebody comes around and disclaims it and proves that, oh, this thing that everybody has believed for so long is a lie. And different, through history, at different points in time, we've seen that happen over and over again. Now, there's the other parts where we continue the conversation and we got to see that actually objectivity is harder than we would have initially thought, right? And this particular thoughts often leads to nihilism, where one comes to the realization that, oh, I might not exactly be able to know and understand reality for what it is, because I might not have access to all knowledge part time, or all knowledge that ever existed. And so it is impossible for me as a human, for my little brain, to be able to comprehend the full extent of reality and then be able to get the full scope of objectivity. But now, having come to that conclusion and having realized that the right way to go is not for us to just abandon everything and just go into full-on nihilism, or to just give up. But we found that when it comes to understanding truth, objectivity is not the only way to go. There's another aspect of perceiving reality, another aspect of perceiving truth, that has to do with our emotions, our experiences. Because every experience we have, they are filtered through our emotions. They are filtered through history. They are filtered through our perspective, the perspective of different people. And this, what I just spoke about now, is what we call subjectivity. When it comes to truth, there are two sides to it, at least on this dimension. There's the aspect of objectivity and there's the aspect of subjectivity as well. And today, our conversation will be on subjectivity. So what exactly is subjectivity? Subjectivity is the way that reality is interpreted through our personal emotions, through our biases, and through our experiences. Um, Reality happens, situations are taking place and things are happening, but then every individual has their way of experiencing it, because you are not an infinite being. You are not able to perceive everything all at once. You only have two eyes. You can only be at one location. You only have two hands. You only have one body which has a skin on it that takes in information. You only have your nose. So you are not able to observe everything all at once. You are not able to have access to all of the information at once. You are only able to access reality through one perception at a time. But now, to place the both of them side by side, so we have objectivity, which was the topic we were talking about before, which has to do with the world as it is, experiencing the world as it is independent of us. And then there's subjectivity. And subjectivity has to do with experiencing the world as it relates to us. Those are the two sides of the coin. Those are the two ways by which reality can be experienced. There probably is another one, but then on this dimension, on this plane, on this level, these are the two things we find when it comes to the concept of truth. I think I would like to use an analogy to properly explain this. So we have two people. They are looking at the same painting. They are in a museum. Both of them are looking at the same painting at once. One person is looking at the painting and the information the person is getting from that painting is one of hope, right? They see hope. But then the other person looks at the painting and they see despair, right? And of course, that has to do with art and just basically the way people experience life altogether. But I would like to take our minds to the example that I used in the last episode, the one of is Elizabeth and John. So Elizabeth and John were walking along the road and then it began to rain. Objectively, it is raining. Everybody can see it. And even if nobody was there, it would still be raining. But then we find that subjectively, John was annoyed about the rain. Oh, my shoes are dirty now. My shoes are getting wet. Oh, the entirety of my body is getting wet. When I'm under the rain, I catch a cold. But Elizabeth, on the other hand, is really excited because Elizabeth loves the rain. And she's just joyful and going on having the best time of her life. Now, the thing here is that reality presents itself to us, but meaning is added by us. Reality presents itself to us as it is, but at the time, because we are only able to take in bits of information per time through our senses, our eyes, our nose, our ears, the way that we feel inside, our emotions, reality presents itself to us, but we then give meaning to reality. The meaning of what is happening per time is added by us in reality. And if we were to take a look at minds that have also wrestled with this concept as well, we have Kierkegaard. Kierkegaard referred to truth as subjectivity. For him, truth was not just about objective facts. No, rather for him, the deepest truths to him, for things like faith, things like meaning, things like commitments. Now, all of these things, they are lived personally. All of these things are not proven in the lab. I feel like I'm preaching now. But then to him, this was what he found when he took some time to study and to think about all of these things, that the deepest truth, the things that are the most true for a lot of people, Those things are not proven in the lab. And to give an example, if Kierkegaard were to be the one talking about this topic right now, he would come and tell you that you can't prove love, you can't prove faith, but rather when it comes to these two important aspects of truth and two important aspects of reality, you rather have to experience it. You have to be able to properly experience it to the fullest. And to him, that is where truth becomes subjective. Another person that I looked at his claims when it comes to the concept of subjectivity is Husserl. And his own findings and his line of thought had to do with phenomenology. Basically, most of the things that Husserl spoke about is that instead of trying to chase abstract theories, what you should be doing instead is describing experiences as they are lived. An example of this, or what he would mean, or what I think he would mean, is that when you drink coffee, you don't just register the chemical compounds or calculate how black the coffee is or how hot the cup is, how many Fahrenheit it is, or how much water is in the coffee compared to how much milk is in the cup of coffee. No, those details might be important, they might be relatively important, but to you who is drinking that cup of coffee, those details might not exactly be the things that you'll be focused on. The things that you most likely will be more focused on would be the smell that comes from it. So you smell it, you feel the warmth of the coffee in your palm. It might even be the birds that are singing around you, or maybe you are even in your office. The sounds around you and the sensation that is shooting into your body, shooting into your brain at the time. And maybe you even remember the fact that in the mornings I take coffee with my family. All of these experiences, they are subjective, but then these experiences are the truth. Now, looking at these two minds that have spoken about the concept of subjectivity, there are other examples, but just using these two as a sample of the philosophical thought on these particular concepts, we see that philosophy isn't dismissing subjectivity as bias. Because oftentimes that is something that a lot of people tend to do. There's a tendency to want to be head on and dogged about, the absolute truth, the objective truth. And that is important. Remember, I am for objectivity. Objectivity is the reason why I mentioned that you are supposed to know what you believe, irrespective of how you feel. And you're supposed to understand it. So I am not against objectivity, but subjectivity is not all bias. Actually, subjectivity is an essential part of being. And when it comes to a human being, with our limited senses and our limited access to information, subjectivity is a very crucial part of finding what the truth is. Now, I would like to look at objectivity yet again, because I'm trying to compare both of the concepts together, and from what I've found so far, there are limits to the concept of objectivity. Like even in science, like I spoke the last time, while science is aiming for objectivity, most of the time we find that science itself is limited by subjectivity. Because when it comes to doing a study, there is a need for you to create a hierarchy of needs. You have to decide which problems are worth studying. And those decisions are affected by the beliefs and the biases and the feelings and the perspective of the people who are supposed to do the study part time. Like, how would the results be interpreted? What are the social, cultural lenses by which we'll be looking at this study that we're doing? So even in itself, science even in itself is already restricted by subjectivity. Not exactly restricted, but science in itself is built up by subjectivity. And not just subjectivity, but of course there's the objective parts. In fact, I would dare say that we go from the subjective decisions that we make in order to begin to do the objective findings that we need to do. So subjectivity is not just a distortion in our search for truth. But actually, subjectivity helps us to ask the very questions that we want to ask. Now, looking at this from the psychological angle, so we've taken a look at the philosophical perspective of it. We've looked at the limit of pure objectivity or absolute objectivity. Now, even on the psychological parts, there's something called cognitive bias, where two people can recall the same events, but then their perspectives are different. Right. You tell two people to write or to explain a scenario in which they both experience, and you find differences in their perspective. But when you take those perspectives and you put it together, you have a more wholesome understanding of what took place. And there's also the part of eyewitness testimony. Most of the time, eyewitness testimonies are usually not, they are not as accurate because our memory is unreliable. We don't even remember what we think we remember. In fact, we are not able to see colors as they are. That's another part that I wanted to put into the episode, but I just had to rule out. Humans are not able to perceive reality as it is. In essence, our brain does not give us raw data. Our brain is consistently filtering, editing, and interpreting the data that it's taking in before we then get the information. When you look at something, you don't see the color as it is. When you sit on something, you are not literally sitting on it. There is a crazy distance between the atoms of your body and the atoms of the particular thing that you are sitting on. But then when you look at where you are sitting on, you can see there's no space there. But your mind is only able to tell you what you can take, the information that you can process at the time. So you are not exactly seeing reality as it is. You are also seeing it from a lens, from a perspective. And the perspective of humans are limited, unfortunately, because of our senses. And another thing that I would like us to think about is that subjectivity is already in our daily life. And I doubt if we'll be able to do away with it at any point from now. Because when we look at some of the things that we enjoy the most, when you think about arts, faith, the concept of love, which is a very, very crucial part of human existence, all of these things are influenced by subjectivity. If you look at art, for example, one person is crying about a song and another person feels absolutely nothing. When you look at the concept of love, it's something that is universally recognized. Everybody knows that there's something called love, but different people have different perspectives of it. And even faith, a lot of people have different but unique personal encounters with God or spirituality. So subjectivity is important. And in order to then take the next step in this walk that we've been on for a while, a better move would be to reframe subjectivity as a value in the process of finding truth and not as a flaw. Because like I've been able to establish before, without subjectivity, we would have facts, but those facts would carry no meaning. Using the example of the person taking their morning coffee, we would only be able to explain the fact that there's a cup that weighs this much weight and inside of the cup contains particular volume of water. Um, the water was heated to a particular degree and this amount of milk, this amount of sugar was added to it. And, all of those facts are there and they are important, but they are not the whole truth. Subjectivity is needed. Meaning is needed, and subjectivity is the thing that brings meaning into facts, because we are the ones that bring meaning into facts. Our experiences, the things that we think about, the events that take place, are the things that bring meaning into facts. And subjectivity in itself is able to add color to life. It is the reason why the stories that we tell matters. It is the reason why beauty exists. It's the reason why humans create. And with all of this, I think we've been able to take the next step in our work towards the concept of truth. And now, before I bring the episode to a close, I would like you to think about the fact that if objectivity shows us the world outside of us, and subjectivity reveals the world inside of us, then the obvious question would be, where exactly does the truth lie? And so to bring all of this to a close, I think I would like to end this here, the concept of subjectivity and objectivity, because I feel like you're a rational being and you should already have been able to come to a conclusion. The fact that we need both parts of the coin. We need all of the raw facts, and we also need the experiences and the meaning that are attributed to them per time, right? So um, the truth is somewhere in between. The truth is at the point of balance between the two. And this is how we come to the truth. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. I would like to know, if you don't mind, I would like to know what stood out for you in this episode and if you learned anything. We're still on our walk to the concept of truth. Thank you for listening. Do enjoy the rest of your day.